So we've got both chassis rails on the trolley now, because I need to do that to move them, which is a good opportunity just to do a bit of before and after him. So as you can see here, front and chassis are both the same. These are the holes for the front cross member. This is the shock absorber, as is this one. Polish come follow. These are the fuel pipe holes. Engine mount, rear engine mount. You can see that over here. Look, rear engine mount. We move along. Here's the gearbox mount, and then it starts to change, because on this one we've got the bolts for the spring hanger, and of course on this one they've moved. So there, and they're over there. And obviously we get to the back, and that's the difference. That's just 305mm that's missing, because we've obviously done the near side. I know in this photo or this scene it looks like the offside, but that's actually the near side. I had to load it that way on the trolley because that offside rail was on those two axle stands over there, and you know, obviously I couldn't get to it, so it doesn't make any odds. But what I'm going to do now is bring this one in, load it onto the trestles, and get that done, and then that one can go back outside and wait for its mate being done. Grand. Offside chassis rail's cleaned up, we've marked it up, we're ready to cut, so let's get it cut. Yeah. That's chassis, that's definitely chassis cut. Bit of work to do on it yet, but let's crack on. I didn't really intend to film as much of the offside chassis rail as I have done, or as we are doing, because well, in theory it's the same job as the near side chassis rail. Now you may think the beer is there for recreational purposes, but it's actually also to demonstrate we've got a problem with this chassis. It's not insurmountable because it survived 47 years with it, but we've obviously got a bit of a Friday afternoon chassis here. We've got a clamp on it, it's clamped to the top of the trestle, the trestle's level, and as you can see the beer is leaning that way, and that's because the chassis itself hasn't been folded correctly, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. We've also got some length issues. It's slightly shorter than the other chassis rail, and the holes aren't drilled in exactly the same place. But let's start off with, why is the beer leaning? Right, just to talk you through the first problem we've got. This is our new piece of extension chassis rail. It's come from the donor vehicle. That's the vehicle we think is ex-Tyson Burridge, 1977 S80 but the build sheet will tell you that this should be a 9" by 4" by 5/16 chassis section, and that's certainly what the chassis rail should be for our S80 that we're building here for 80418. However, you can see straight away that we've got a step here, so we obviously need to measure that, and that could explain why that beer's on the piss. So if we measure this one, you can see straight away that that's 4" 100mm. If we measure this one, we're about, well, we're just over, aren't we? We're about 4 3/8, aren't we, roughly? So for some reason this chassis has been folded to 4 3/8, but that still doesn't explain why the beer's on the piss, does it? Except if you measure the other side, and you've guessed it, she's 3 7/8. So it's as though the chassis for 80418 has been put in the folder in a bit of a rush. We've folded the top flange to 4 3/8 and the bottom flange has been folded to 3 7/8, and that's why my beer's pissed. So I've come to the other side of the chassis just to show you we've got him nice and level and straightened up, but it gives you a good view of the difference in chassis width. This is the 4" that's off the donor chassis. We've got a donor chassis propped up there, or the other rail from the donor chassis. That is exactly the same as the near side chassis rail that we did recently. This is the original chassis rail for the off side of the vehicle, and you can see here quite graphically that, you know, we've got a big difference. There's going on for 3/8 of an inch there. If I come this side, you can see the gap, the difference, and you can see the difference here. So that's the original, that's the spacer block, we're all nice and level. But if we go to the bottom, but this bottom flange is 3 7/8, this is 4". Top flange is 4 3/8, and that's still 4". So that flange hasn't been folded correctly. Okay, so we've got the tape on. This is going to act as a guide to trim back the section of chassis that we're putting in. So I'm going to leave it slightly proud when I cut it, and then we'll use a flat wheel to sand it back, and that way we're not looking to build up. Let's go for it. Gone about as expected. Yeah, not bad that. Straight enough. Plenty to work back to from there. Right, to get a straight edge, when we do the grinding, we're going to clamp this piece of steel on and grind back to it. Right, that's given us a good edge to work to. That'll do. We'll just soft pad that up, finish it off. That should do us for tonight. It's come out reasonably well, that. So that's our joint in place now. As you can see, we're just about ready for eye build on it. So she's right. This mark was already in, which I presume was something to do with, well, possibly the fuel tank carrier. But yeah, that just wants a bit of build on it now, just polishing in. But that'll be right enough. The view you're seeing here is the chassis upside down, so this edge is actually the underside of the chassis. Let's have a look at the other side. So what we can see here is this is the spacer piece we've had to put in for this wider top flange. We're going to fill this with weld next and obviously grind everything back in one. So that'll get cleaned up. We're going to fill it with weld, grind it all back up, and she should be something like Right, we've done the joint now, lovely wide joint that as well, wasn't it? So it's filled up well, it's ground back lovely as you can see, still quite hot to the touch. We just need to get cleaned up now, just do the final fettle on this inside, cleaned up, etched up, and then ready for paint, because yeah, I think we've about done on fabrication, to be honest, for now. Had a bit of a late one last night and we just managed to get the etch primer on, so we're going to get some colour on these next. If you remember, this bit is just for the flitch, so we'll give that some colour, tiger seal it in, and then we can get the rest of it painted. Right, well, we've got it in red, as you can see, all the way through. Let's have a quick look at the flitch. So she's all sealed with tiger seal. It's gone on reasonably well, hasn't it? You know, nice shine to it. If this was going to be seen, we'd sand it or buff it out. But yeah, paint's gone on lovely. Nice shine to it. Nice fingerprints in it now, well done, mate. I didn't bother trimming that lip back in the end. It's about the same as the chassis. It's slightly proud, but it's okay. And obviously you can see the other side, it's quite a bit lower. But yeah, no, it's all good that. So I'm gonna let this harden off, flip it over, and we'll do the other side of the rail. Right, well, it's the 31st of August 2021. This time last year, 31st of August 2020, we were doing this. So in that time, in this last 12 months, we've pulled the cab off into little bits. We've obviously stripped it right down, stripped the chassis right down to 2 chassis rails. You know, we've got the engine there, the back axle there. We've got the front hubs off. We've got the rear drums and shoes off. We've got to pull that to bits soon. So we've not done bad, but for me, we're still 3 coats of colour short on being where I wanted to be. You know, the plan was to have this in colour and outside, and we've not achieved that, which is a bit disappointing. And as most of my teachers would have said, the only person I've let down is myself. So anyway, tomorrow night we're going to give this I-Build primer final flat off, 3 coats of colour, let it harden off. It's Tuesday night, so Thursday night, maybe Friday night, we'll have it outside, and then we can get on with something else, because this has been a bit of a marathon. Well, it's about 5:30 in the morning. It's dark outside, and as you can see, we painted the chassis last night, and I can never resist a look at it in the morning, because that looks absolutely lovely. Really pleased with that. It's gone on well, not too much paint, just the right amount by the look of it. This is a sacrificial coat, so it'll get scuffed off again when we do the final build, so I'm not too worried about it, but the finish on it is absolutely super. And we've still got some nice bits in it. I noticed last night we've got a bit of hammer rash there. Just about see it. Treated the back end with some K-rust. Starting to see a little bit of rust surface on the other one. That's really good.
Got a dead fly in it there. Finish. Right. Better go and earn some money to pay for all this lot. See you later.
Got the chassis rails out on the trestles. They're with Ettle spring. Had a bit of a disaster with the trolley. That fell over on us and we have sustained some damage to the paintwork. Not a big deal because it was sacrificial. Just annoying. But let's have a walk along the chassis rails, do a bit of comparison and see what we've got. Right, we're going to end this video with the way we started it, by doing a little bit of side-by-side comparison. So we're starting off at the front. You can see we're reasonably level there. These two holes here for the front, spring hanger, etc., as are these two. You can see that arrangement's reasonably square. Move back a bit, the next most distinguishable ones are the shock absorber mounts, so you can sort of see them across. This hole here is for the clutch linkage, most of you will know if you're into your Fodens. Here we've got the rear engine mounts, so you can see that symmetry there, can't you? Just move around a bit to it. You can also see in this we've got a lot shinier chassis here, because that one's been sat outside for a few weeks. Unfortunately, when it came off the trolley we did manage to scratch it. Not the end of the world, because we are going to paint it. These are gearbox mounts. Remember them, talked about them quite a bit as we went along because we use them as a datum. This is where it changes slightly, because some of these holes are a bit more randomly drilled, I suppose, because this side's fuel tanks, this side's air tanks, and we put some extra ones in for the flitch. Here we've got the rear spring, the front rear spring hanger, so they're nice. Wing stay, and that's a wing stay there as well. These are the flitch plate bolts, by the way, that's why they're matching up. This is for the load sensing valve, which is mounted on the offside of the chassis, which is why there isn't any holes over here. And then finally, to wrap us up, we've got spring hanger mounting bolt there and there. These holes here are for the electrical wires. As you can see, these also mate up. Now if we look at the back, you can see we're nice and even at the back. Right, well that'll do us for this one. They'll stay there till springtime now, so we'll see them in the background, but not going to do a lot with them until then. And then soon, before we know it, they'll be coming in to build into the rest of the truck. In the next video you'll get to find out why we've dug this old oven drum out that we bought at John Keely's sale. Next time.